Hey guys, Matt, IronTrap Garage, and we are going to do a little walk around of the Track T project that we took apart recently. So we took this over to our buddy Brooke to have him blast it, and he fitted in his schedule around some of his projects and blasting jobs that he had, and we finally got everything back. So I didn't even really look it over. We just grabbed the stuff, threw it in the trailer. We're going to bring it into the shop and show you guys what kind of condition it is in and what kind of crazy repairs I'm going to have to do on this thing on both the body and the frame. So Mike and I are going to carry this in and we'll show you guys what we find.
I don't think he's going to murder me.
What'd you buy from him?
No, I sold.
Something Disney to him?
No. No, I had one of those cast iron like soup pots.
Oh.
It was the one that Neva's mom like forced on us. And gave me, I just asked for $15, which is more than what I had. So
Yeah.
he said he's gonna make tortilla soup when he gets home.
Pretty sure I'm going to cut that weird perforated steel out of the bottom. That'll probably save 50 pounds. Alright, set the corner down. That's where you put your feet. The old race car. Mm-hmm. That's literally where you put your feet. This is all open underneath. So. All right, so we got the frame on the stands here. We're going to show you this first, and we're probably going to set the body on top of it just to make life easier. So this thing obviously was done a long time ago because this is all like gas welded. You can just see how fat the beads are and everything, that they were gas welding all of that. This front mount actually doesn't look too terrible, surprisingly. Some of this stuff, we dealt with this on the Schroll car a little bit, where it was old welds. We want to keep it looking old, but there is some areas on a lot of this stuff where they just like, they didn't finish weld it. So what I've been trying to do with these types of cars, when we're doing a lot of these like survivor cars or old historic cars, and we're trying to keep them looking old, I usually go back over and finish the welds. Like here's a good example. On the back side of the suicide mount, they just didn't weld there, and they did on that side. So I'll go with the TIG welder or the MIG and just go in and fill it in. And yes, there'll be one little spot that will look nicer than the rest of it, but at least we have the peace of mind that it's welded fully around for the suspension. So that, but we're gonna leave it looking kind of crappy because that's just crude, I guess is the way you can put it, because that's how it was. We want it to look like an old race car because it is an old race car. These are for the front shocks. I'm going to probably leave them alone. There's really nothing wrong with them. Again, just probably finish a couple of the welds.
This one has not been welded on the front at all?
Oh yeah, this one's the same way. They probably welded it with the shock mounted.
Yeah.
And they just like welded it on with the shock on, never took the shock off. They had a race like the next day. These, we thought these might have been some kind of remnants of old mounts, but we don't know. So I'm going to probably just knock them off. One thing I think I've decided on this car is we're going to move the drivetrain around a little bit, or at least recreate a new trans mount and make it so that we can use an actual, we have the engines over there, an actual like trans with a shifter. So we're gonna have to kind of redo some of the motor mount and trans mount stuff. They have what we think were like motor mounts here that were like sandwiched. I think they just had like rod going down through, and probably that was it. So we're gonna definitely make that a little bit better so that we can use a normal trans, and we can also know that the thing's not gonna break in half. One thing I think we noticed when I was putting it in the car, it's cracked. So like they like chopped out in here. And this is a Model T frame with a heavy engine. So, and here they chopped out. Oh, here it is. This was cracking where they cut it. And Brooke actually, like, I think pointed it out to me. So it's cracked there. We got to go back over. I got to V-groove that. I'm going to fill these little like notches in.
Shark bites.
Yeah, shark bites. And I may on this car, I haven't decided yet, I may box the frame on this because it really could use it with that big engine in the front of this car. I'm kind of surprised that the frame isn't more cracked, but I've been thinking about it probably is necessary because that thing probably makes a decent amount of power. It's very heavy for what it is. It makes a decent amount of power. So here's some more, like this isn't welded on the back side. Lots of that on this car.
It's tacked on the backside.
It's tacked. So moving back here, this is where, for anyone that doesn't remember, it had a side steer, like cowl steering in it, and it was a the name's escaping me. Franklin, yes. It had a Franklin steering box in it with these like rods that were mounted in, which is super cool, but where it put the steering at, the actual like steering gear section, was like literally right where the shifter needs to be if we want to put a trans in it. So I think, and it was sat really low, so I think what I'm gonna do is move some of this stuff around. I may cut all this off and start over, and may try to utilize some of this just to, you know, keep the past on there. But I want to move the steering up a little bit. There was really no reason to have the steering box like so down low where your feet were like literally running into the steering box you're moving around. So I want to do that and move the steering up. So I'm going to probably cut all this off and kind of redesign some of that and try and use some of the stuff we can. You can see they had the pedal integrated. Oh Jesus!
It's got a little bit of sand in it now.
Yeah, but I don't think it's. But it's not. I mean, you can just see me like, if you look how much that bends and twists already for this thing. So it is not good. It looks like it's like pieces of an original pedal cluster, probably like a 50s or 60s Ford, like maybe like a shoebox Ford era. They had, this looks like the bracketry and pedal for like one of those pedal setups. So it's like not even fully welded. It's real thin metal. It's like, I mean, you can twist all this without even trying, and that's what the steering was bolted to, and I think the brakes. So yeah, kind of sketchy. So I think I'm gonna redo all that and try and make it better.
What are you scared of?
This portion here, that's the perforated metal, is super heavy. Again, we're gonna redo some of the like design of the car, so I'm gonna get rid of that. If this car was a historic car where like we knew that it had won a bunch of races or any, you know, it was actually like a famous car, I'd probably act a little different where we would do a true restoration. A lot like the cars that we do here. I'm trying to keep the car old, but maybe make it a little safer and easier to drive. So with your feet hanging way below the frame and the steering wheel like in your crotch and your, you know, all that stuff, I think if we redo some of that, we can make it so that you sit down in the car, but you don't have your feet quite the same. So I'm gonna get rid of that and probably make a new floorboard. I might make a drop down floor like that, but make it a little more, a little better, probably. So we're gonna get rid of that. I didn't see anything too crazy otherwise on this. They did at least fish plate in here in the back, or gusset. I could see that the gussets are actually breaking in here. They're welds.
Yeah,
you could see it. So you could see it's ripping there. They had something was welded here. It looks like there was some kind of box tubing or.
Looks like there was something back here too.
Yeah. So we don't know what that was. It could have been some kind of early roll bar or something. I'm not really sure, but a lot of that I'm probably just gonna leave alone unless it's torn. We'll go back over it and I'll weld it up, V-groove it out. This one's cracking pretty bad here. Actually, it looks like.
Oh yeah.
So we're gonna have to go back over all that and get that welded up. The rear shock mounts and all that stuff look pretty much standard again.
Same as the front. Not welded on the backside.
And I don't really know, like there's all these like remnants of old brackets and things. I don't know what they were for.
What if there's like a rear bumper out the back of the car or something?
Might have been. I mean, it has one already, but it might have been another one. But I love these jacker bolt setup that was in here. This is what I've seen on a bunch of the old dirt cars I've seen, where they just weld a big square nut in there and you just run, you know, a big jacker bolt down through and it pushes on the spring, so it limits the suspension from how much it moves. So overall, the frame isn't anything too surprising so far. We obviously are going to need to check square and all that stuff to make sure that it's not like twisted. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it's not super twisted and we can basically leave the cross members still attached and just add some center cross member trans mount type setup and work on that. So this looks decent so far. I'm pretty surprised. Did you see here, Mike, this was diamond plate for for the
no,
wishbone mount, and it looks like they added on, like right here it's welded
Yep.
again.
Is this one diamond plate too? Oh yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
yeah. So, and this side, I don't know, in yours, I could see brazing that showed up.
Yep.
It's like,
The nuts are like brazed on.
yeah. So that was, yeah. So that is that's what's holding the tapered section of your wishbone in. So I'm gonna have to go over some of that, obviously.
You gonna re-braze it or you gonna TIG weld it?
Probably take a while, I think. But I like how there's like only 2 bolts holding
That's all you need.
those wishbone plates on. So we're probably going to go over some of this and maybe use this crude piece, like keep it there, but actually like weld it in or make it like a little safer. So that's pretty good. So we're going to quick spray this thing, and we're going to do the same with the body. Hit it with, oh no, wait, have we done this already?
We did.
We did this. Jeez, I'm wrong. This has already been hit with Fast Etch. I can't even remember what the hell we're working on anymore. Steve went over this with Fast Etch. I remember that now.
Yeah.
We got the frame first, and then we got the body. Okay, my memory's coming back. And he hit this with Fast Etch. If you look at the difference in the color, and this thing hasn't surface rusted from sitting around.
It's been like a month.
Yeah, probably. You're right, because I forgot he got this done, and then we had a bunch of really crappy weather, and he wasn't able to blast it. If you look at this and then look at this body, it's a much lighter color, whereas this is like that darker. So that's like the phosphoric coating that the Eastwood Fast Etch leaves on it. That's what a lot of these cars, like the Sweetheart Roadster, I sprayed that frame like 5 years ago with that.
been a while.
It's been a while, and the only places that are literally rusting are where I sanded the coating off, and then my fingers, got oil and moisture on it. So we're gonna put the body on this just to show you what condition it's in, and then we're gonna spray that with Fast Etch just so that thing is sealed up, and before we start doing the repairs. Some people throw this stuff right in epoxy primer, which is great, but we know this car's gonna need a lot of repairs, so we're gonna be grinding off all that epoxy primer after we have to do repairs. So I like spraying in a Fast Etch. If it's not gonna sit outside or anything, Fast Etch is perfectly fine. So we'll throw the body on, show you guys what it looks like, and see what we find.
Okay.
This thing weighs like nothing, 5 pounds. I love it.
We need to work on more Model Ts.
Here comes all the sand.
Yeah, a little bit of sand's coming out. There we go. I kind of like that they put those studs to locate it. It's like a kind of a smart way to do it. All right, so the body is a little rough. It's had a lot of repairs and things in its time. You can see they welded round bar. One thing they did with this car that I think is pretty nice is that, and it saved the car, is they used a bunch of round bar and square tubing to kind of replace all the wood and give it some structure. So you can see they had the round bar here that they welded on the inside all the way around, but on the outside here they only welded it here for some reason where the carbs kind of sit back in, which I thought was a little odd. And you can see some of the welds have broken. So I may end up just doing what they did here and weld this whole seam up with silicone bronze or whatever, just to fill it in and make it look a little nicer, and just make it a little more cohesive, if you will. But you can see, like down here, same thing. There's like some of them I think have broken over time, which is not good. There's a bit of rust. I don't know about on that side, Mike,
Yeah, in
but
the bottom.
The bottom edge, the other side's the same way. Right where they welded the box tubing to the,
Oh, this side's worse.
yeah, this side's definitely worse. And even the box tubing's a little pinholed in here. This is gonna need some work because we're gonna be painting the car and redoing it. So we might as well make this a little nicer. So I'll have to make just a little patch to go along this bottom edge here. I can just TIG it in and roll it underneath, and it shouldn't be too bad. Who knows, some of this could have been crappy when they built the car, because probably when they built the car, this is like a 1923 or something T. So even if it was built in the late 40s or 50s, it was already an old car at that point. So it may have had a little bit of rust and they just kind of made it work, but there's definitely some rust repair that needs to be done there. This part of the body is actually pretty straight, surprisingly, for it being a race car.
Definitely tells a race car. There's some.
Yeah, there's some damage that's been banged in. You can see on the other side they welded up the door because this early T, they only had a passenger door. So So you can see that they took the door and just welded it up here, all the way around. They actually,
Surprisingly, a nice job.
yeah, they actually did a pretty decent job on it. And then obviously they welded this bar across here to keep it supported in the dash that was aluminum sat in here. So you had to step into the car, obviously. There was some sort of like angle iron bottom piece that's floating around on the bottom of this side that's still there. But you can see where they made like little cuts in the back here and welded this stuff together. And it kind of, thing was probably,
There's a patch panel right by your hand.
yeah. So I think this was where they welded pieces in to like connect the turtle deck to the body so it didn't flop around, because the turtle deck's actually welded to the body and the box tubing goes in there. So I think these are pieces that they welded in to fix tears, but also to connect everything together. It's kind of interesting how they did. You can see it on the outside back here, but there's like these pieces they welded in. So there was supposed to be some kind of filler panel, I think, originally on the car, but they welded in these sections, so they probably didn't have it. And it's a little goobered up in there, as you can see.
Oh yeah.
But they welded, they welded the turtle deck actually to it. And yeah, so, and again, they have this thick round bar going all the way around. And I don't know, I wish I could see, oh, we can see on the other side. I wonder if it's solid bar or
No,
if
it's round.
Oh, it's round too. So it's conduit they probably use, and they just bent it. You could feel the ripples where they might have been welded in here or something. I don't know.
If they bent it with heat and it might have collapsed a little
Yeah,
bit.
you're probably right. So, but they actually, I mean, to get this bend to go down and around,
Watch the free T video.
it's a lot of work. Yes. So I kind of admire that. So on the turtle deck, it's kind of a mess. You can see that it's been torn and welded and leaded and all kinds of nonsense. This is aluminum. This is aluminum, or aluminium for our Australian and
British friends.
British friends, aluminium. The trunk lid is aluminum. It is a mess. The way they made it, they had like a flap that was kind of around the gas cap. And as it's been moved, it broke off with us just moving stuff around. But they made it out of aluminum. It's really nothing special, so I can remake this myself. That shouldn't be too hard. This piece isn't too bad. It's just where they had the roll bar mounted through there. So I'll probably recreate this stuff. Yeah, so I'll have to recreate this because this is pretty bad. And by the time I try and like fix it and fix that tear, it's just thin aluminum. I'll just put it in the brake and make up another one. It's pretty simple. Not quite sure how they were latching it. I think it just might have been that piece that was around it that they were bending around the gas cap, and it kind of held it. So, otherwise, not too bad. You can see a little bit of the structure needs to be, we got to go through and just hit it with the spot blaster that.
I should mention the mounting bolts.
Oh yeah, there's like these, there's supposed to be these studs throughout. Some of them have broken off over time, so there's two of them here. There's one on this side, but one's missing there.
And the ones in the back are
And there's
missing.
two in the back, so we're gonna have to weld them in. It's kind of a neat way they did it, because you can, I don't think they even had nuts on them, to be honest. I think they just set the body
Well, when
down.
you're sitting in the car, you're holding the body down.
Exactly, so you don't really need it for quick release. So we're gonna kind of reuse that. I think it's a pretty neat idea. We're just probably going to put nuts and bolts on it so that the body's actually
Sissy, what are you
bolted
scared
down.
of?
Yeah, I know. So we'll keep the body actually bolted down. But the rear turtle deck area is probably the biggest mess, I mean, with all this type of stuff in here. But we're keeping it, it's still gonna be an old race car, so we're trying not, I'm not gonna go over the thing and like smooth out every seam and do this and do that. We're kind of just gonna do, a lot of the old race cars I see, dirt cars that are restored in museums, they do kind of the same thing. It's like you go over it, you fix the stuff that's wrong with it, but you're gonna leave the way they welded it and some of the stuff like that, because it's all just superficial. It's not like some of the stuff we showed you on the chassis where it's like, could kill you if you drove the car. So yeah, I'm gonna probably leave a lot of it alone, fix some of the little pinholes and stuff like that probably.
Oh, the conduit plugs too.
Oh yeah, the conduit plugs in the side there for, I think, where the original top mounted, which is kind of funny. Why they cared about those, I don't know, but they did put those in there. So overall, it's really not that bad. There's not any like crazy rot holes in it. This is way more solid and nice of metal than the Free T was.
Oh, 100%.
And that was at a museum. This sat out in a guy's yard and driveway for a very long time before it was put indoors. So pretty happy with it. So I'm gonna go over and fast etch this whole thing, get everything sealed up and taken care of, so that way it can sit and wait for us to start doing the work on it, which we're gonna start pretty soon. And yeah, I'm super excited to get the engine sent away, start fixing some of the metal on this thing. And because we're not doing any kind of crazy restoration and most of the framework is there, I don't have to, once we get past the steering and pedal stuff, I don't have to re-engineer the suspension or any of that. It worked fine. It's just we got to put it together. So thank you guys for following along. Appreciate it. Let me know what you think of a little race car, and if you're as excited as I am to see this thing back on the road and back on the track.